Hey there, Anna Kojak, mental toughness coach for gymnastics. Because let's face it, gymnasts need it. Just kidding. Well, kind of. We all do. We all need some mental training stuff. Talk to you about 5 tips. I'll give you 5 tips for how to use imagery to help you in gymnastics. So imagery is one of those skills that gymnasts hear about. They kind of know what it is, kind of don't, sort of use it, sort of don't. I want to tell you that if you're not using it, you need to be. Imagery is so important to gymnastics, especially because before you do a new skill, your body's never learned it before. Your body hasn't done it. And so you're going into the unknown many times. So imagery is just such an amazing tool to use to help you learn new skills, but it's also a really good tool to help you correct skills. So let's say you went to a meet and you fell on beam. If you can use imagery shortly after that and replay the beam routine in your mind, but have yourself stay on beam and not fall and not make that mistake, you're priming your mind and your body for a better outcome in the future. Imagery is powerful. It's powerful stuff. But here's the thing about imagery. You have to do it correctly and you have to do it often. So here are my tips. 1, you can use imagery to either recreate a past event or to create a new one. So one of the best ways to use imagery is to almost make a highlight reel in your mind. So you know how sometimes you might watch a video of yourself at a meet where you had a great routine and you watch it? I want you to watch it in your brain. So what you're going to do is think of like 3 or 4 routines that you've done well in the past. You can pick one on each event, or if there's a specific event or skill that you're working on, stick with that event. And you're going to replay them in your mind in a row. And you're going to go through that a couple of times, like 2 or 3 minutes worth, maybe even more. So it's like you're going to go through your beam routine that you did at one meet that was like amazing. Maybe then you'll go through a vault that you did at practice that was awesome, and then you'll go through a floor routine, etc., and then you'll repeat the whole thing over. And you're just going to do that for a couple of minutes. So what you're doing is doing a highlights reel in your mind, in your brain, and that's priming your mind and your body to recreate those skills again and to do them well. Now, the cool thing about imagery is that your brain, as smart as it is, as amazing as your brain is, it does not know the difference between an image that it's seeing in your mind versus something that you've actually done in your body. Isn't that crazy? So I've talked about this a whole ton before on my stories and Instagram because I want you guys to understand the magnitude that you have, this power that you have in your brain. So you can recreate a skill in your mind and then your body can actually think that it's done it or that it's doing it. And you can practice it over and over and over again. So this is even good when you get injured. Let's say you're sidelined and you cannot go to gymnastics for a couple of weeks. You just work on your imagery and gymnasts, I'll tell you that you will get better even if you don't step foot in the gym. So the other thing you can do, like I said earlier, is that you can create something new, a new image. Let's say you're trying to learn a new skill that you've never learned before. But you have an idea of what it looks like, right? Maybe you've seen another gymnast do it. Maybe you've seen Simone Biles do it, right? And so you're going to recreate this image of yourself doing it in your mind over and over and over. So let's say you're learning giants and you've never done them before. You can't get all the way around. Well, in your mind, you're going to see yourself going all the way around on your giant. So you're going to see that happen. You're going to see that back handspring on beam before you get it. You're going to see that dismount you've been trying but haven't gotten yet. You're going to see yourself doing this. Is also going to help you learn new skills. So imagery is so amazing. Number 2. When doing imagery, you want to engage all of your senses. So by senses, you've got your sight. What do you see when you're doing the skill? You've got your smell. This is such a strange one, but there's another one that's even more strange. In gymnastics, what are you smelling? If you're on bars, are you smelling the chalk? Are you smelling sweat? Are you smelling someone's, body lotion or chapstick or something like that? Maybe your coach has perfume on. What are you smelling? What are you tasting? This is the one that I think is even more weird than smell because, I don't know, when you're doing gymnastics, hopefully you're not eating and chewing food or gum or anything like that or candy. But maybe you had a granola bar right? And before you went on to compete, or, you know, during your practice, and maybe you're tasting bits of that, or maybe you inhaled some chalk and it's like kind of on your tongue. I don't know. What are you tasting? So what kind of, you know, taste is in your mouth? Is it dry? Is there a lot of saliva? That's kind of gross. But hey, you know, you got to get down to the minor nitty-gritty details. So hey, what are you hearing? What are the sounds like in the gym? Are there a lot of people talking? Is it really quiet? Is there music playing? Do you hear someone else's floor routine going? What are you touching? Like, what does it feel like? So you are, you know, let's say gripping the bar, or going on beam, or on floor. Like, what are you feeling on your hands? What are you feeling on your feet? Does the ground feel hard? Does it feel springy? Do the bars feel like they're ripping your hands? Like, what are you feeling? Another body sense that people don't think about is the kinesthetic awareness. So this is, how do you sense your body in motion, in space? How do you feel that? So like as you're doing giants and going around the bar, how does that feel to you? Is your stomach sort of doing flip-flops as you go around? You know, are you feeling a little dizzy? Like what are you feeling? How does your body feel in space? So that's a huge one that you want to think about too, especially when you're doing those flipping skills and twisting skills. You want to have that body awareness. Where are you in space? What does that feel like? So those are all things that you want to engage when you're doing your imagery. And I know that's a lot of things to think about. When you're first starting, you might only use, you know, your whatever you're seeing, your eyesight, and maybe what you're feeling. You might start with those two. It's going to depend. We all start at a different level of being able to imagine and the vividness in which we imagine it. So sometimes you might even see like in black and white. Sometimes it's in color. Sometimes it's really colorful. Sometimes it's kind of dull. Sometimes it seems sort of cloudy or fuzzy. So those are all differences that we have. The goal obviously is to make it feel as real as possible. So you want to get to the point where you're imagining it in your mind and it feels so real. It's vivid and you hear the sounds and all of that. And that takes work. That takes practice. So don't get frustrated if it's not like that now. And that is one thing that I see a lot of gymnasts will try imagery and they will get frustrated and they'll stop and they don't do it again. But I'm encouraging you to stick with it. You've got to keep going with imagery. It is an important tool, but you need to put the work in order to get better at it. Tip number 3, engage your feelings too. So we talked about engaging your senses, but what about your feelings? How are you feeling when you're doing that routine? Were you angry? Were you upset? Were you nervous? Like, what are you feeling? The more that you can engage those feelings, especially if you're trying to control your frustration or control your anger through imagery. So let's say, you know, you're trying to show, maybe you fell on beam and you want to imagine yourself recovering and getting, you know, back up there and doing the best second half of your routine of your life. Well, how are you feeling when you got back up on beam? Really like angry that you fell, angry at yourself? Were you really nervous? You want to try to recreate that, and then you can take control over that. So if you were feeling really angry, when you get back on beam and you see the rest of your visualization, the rest of your routine that you're imagining, you want to make sure that you're also imagining yourself controlling that anger and controlling those nerves and finding a different emotion there. This is really good for emotional control, but again, this is more of an advanced step, but it's something that you need to work towards because this will help you create a more realistic picture for your imagery practice. Tip number 4, practice different perspectives of imagery. So there's 2 perspectives. There's the perspective of looking at yourself like you're a spectator and you're watching yourself go through the motions and do the routine, almost as if you're watching a videotape of yourself doing routine. It's called the external imagery perspective. So external, you're outside looking in. The other one is the internal imagery perspective. That's how it would feel as if you were doing the skill from the inside out. So you're imagining what you would see from your eyes looking out. So you're inside looking out through your eyes, and what are you seeing? Now that one tends to be a little harder than the external perspective. It's hard to imagine yourself sort of going through the flips and the motion. Actually, research has shown that the external imagery is actually better for gymnastics. Now, I'm not saying one way is better or worse, but they have shown that in sports like gymnastics, where there's a lot of technique and flipping and twisting and turning, that it is better to try to look at it from this external perspective because you can see the full skill. You can see yourself doing the whole thing. However, I think that an internal perspective is more effective in gymnastics also, or is really effective in gymnastics also. So I don't think you should rule out either one. You want to try both and see which one feels easier. And then once you've gotten that, then you work on the other. So The better athletes who are able to use imagery to help them, they are able to engage both of these perspectives. It's really hard to do, but it takes practice and it's awesome. So they can kind of switch back and forth between the two and figure out, this might change too based on what event you're on. So, one event, let's say, beam might be easier to watch from an external perspective, but vault might feel better to do or more realistic if you're doing it from an internal perspective. You can play around with it and feel which one feels better for you depending on the event that you're doing. Okay, the fifth tip I have for you is just to practice imagery often. Practice, practice, practice. Practice makes perfect, but practice helps you engage all your senses. It helps you engage your feelings. It helps you figure out those perspectives, and it helps you do this so much that it feels real. Because the point here is that the more real the imagery can feel, the more effective it is for helping you. So if you're just going through the motions and you're like, it's not really doing much, well, it's not doing much then. So you need to go through and take the time to practice this over and over so it becomes second nature, but then it also becomes part of your routine. So I would say carve out 15 minutes a day and try to practice your imagery. It could be right before you go to bed, it could be when you wake up in the morning, it could be right before practice, right after practice, maybe on the car ride home from practice or the car ride to practice. You can practice your imagery, but it should be something that happens every day so that you can get better and better and better at it. Okay, I hope those tips helped. I know imagery is hard, but it has been proven to be this really useful tool, especially for Olympic gymnasts who use it regularly. They really have seen some amazing results from it. So I want you to practice this and definitely add it to your toolbox of mental tools that you have that you can draw from when you need. Like these tips, be sure to subscribe to my channel so you can get all the latest videos as they come out. All right, I'll see you guys soon.